Hello and welcome to another episode of Toxic Love Transformation. I am Stephanie and here today to talk to you about step 6. Is this your first time coming on and getting on step 6? I apologize. We've been doing this for the past 5 weeks. We've been sharing the steps that you need in order to heal from toxic relationships and reinvent your life. To just kind of go back, well, I'll say first, if this is your first time coming on, don't worry, you don't have to have seen all of the other steps in order for you to get the most out of this today. You can watch this and then you can go back and watch the other ones. So just to give you a heads up of what those topics were, the 5 previous steps were: number 1, identify how you got here. So after a toxic relationship, we want to make sure that we are not repeating old patterns. We want to look at how we got here. Is it because of old childhood wounds? Is it past relationships? What is the reason that we got here? So the first step is identify. The second step is to build a team. We do not work solo. We need to make sure we get people on our team. So that means making sure that we have healthy people in our lives, that we have professionals that are there to help us really build our team so that we can ensure that we are successful in creating our new life after our toxic relationship. And of course, not repeating those patterns again moving forward. The next step is to discover. Let's, make sure that our self-esteem is where it should be. Let's refocus on our passion and purpose. What were we put here to do? And I will remind you, you are not put here to suffer and constantly deal with toxic people. So that is step 4. Step 5, understanding self. Step 3, sorry. Understanding self is the next one. What are the limiting beliefs that we have about relationships? Do we feel like it's impossible to have a healthy relationship? Do we feel like we're too old? Do we feel like it's impossible? Do we feel like all the good ones are taken? What are the limiting beliefs that we have about relationships? The next one is pursue. We need to make sure that we are pursuing connection to our gut and healthy communication. Again, whatever has happened to us is not our fault, but we need to learn from what has happened to us in the past. Have we lessened our ability to communicate? Are we able to share our wants and needs? How are we when it comes to having healthy boundaries? So you want to pursue your ability to communicate and to connect to your gut and intuition. Most of us also, when we've been in these toxic relationships, instead of connecting to our gut, we're connected to fear. And we're listening to the fear instead of our intuition. So we want to make sure that we're following the right things in order to really heal from these toxic relationships. So tonight, we're going to talk about step number 6, which is goal setting. So whoop, whoop. Very excited to be here tonight for all of you. If this is your first time coming on, I will remind you or tell you that you should be getting a writing utensil and a piece of paper. There's always good notes for you to take. But definitely ask questions. If I don't get to it right away, I will be able to go back and ask questions or answer your questions later. So don't be afraid to ask questions, but very importantly, make sure that you are able to write down your responses so that you can go back and look over your notes afterwards. So who is ready to dive in for this evening? This should be about 30 minutes or so. It's not going to be a super long training, but it's going to be packed with information. So definitely want to stick around for the whole thing. And if you stay till the end, we are going to be sharing an opportunity for you to work with us that we haven't offered before. So definitely stick around all the way to the end. I'm also going to say, here's a little gift for you. If you have not downloaded your Reinvent Yourself After Divorce guidebook, go over to beinglovedshouldn'thurt.com/links. Go over and get your free guide. In fact, I have a copy right here. I think it's backwards for some of you. But yeah, Reinvent Your Life After Divorce. Go ahead and grab it. It's a free gift for everyone who has been watching this series. Make sure that you grab that and so that you can start your work on healing from toxic relationships. So we are diving in. So what is goal setting? Okay, goal setting is at the end of all all the work that you've done. You've looked at who you are. You've really created this life that's really amazing. And now you're ready for something more. You're like, okay, Stephanie, I've done all this work. Now I want to move on to my life. This is the fun reinventing part, right? So this might be, your next step might be dating. It might be that you want to travel cross country. That's what I did first. Do you want to learn a new trade? Do you want to go back to school? Do you want to change jobs? Do you want to move? Like, what is it that you want to do for yourself? It's going to be really important to start thinking the bigger picture, because again, before your whole focus was on this toxic relationship. Now the world is yours. Now you get to focus on the things that you enjoy that fill up your own cup. So just for this little example to start off with it is, if your next goal is dating after you've done all this healing, because we always remind you, we want to do the healing before we get to the dating part. The next part before we jump fully in is educational dating. And what I mean by educational dating is that for many of us who have been in these toxic relationships, we don't really know who we are and we don't really know what we want. If we've done the work, we are much more comfortable in who we are, but we might not still know who exactly would be a good fit for us. So we want to start going out on dates. We want to start meeting new people. We want to start figuring out who has the types of morals, values, hobbies, goals, find out how they are with disagreements, how are they with communication. We want to find out these things about people that we are dating and then kind of create this mental list of what it is that we are going to be looking for in a potential partner for us. A lot of the times we come from the other perspective. We say, how can we prove our worthiness to somebody else? How can I prove that I'm good enough to this other person to make them pick me? Well, we don't want you to think that way anymore. We want you to kind of flip the script in that we want you to start looking at whether or not they are a good fit for you. Because when we've been in a toxic relationship, this is really where it's also a good idea to get some extra support, because we might not see the red flags right away. We might jump too quickly into another relationship because maybe this is the best we've ever experienced. Maybe so far they treated us better than what the other person treated us, and we're like, yay, we're all in. But we were treated like dirt before. Now they're just being decent. And we're so excited by decency that we jump into a relationship with someone that's not actually the right fit for us. So we want to make sure that we don't get into that, get into that habit or get into that trap again. So another thing might happen too is that we might have too many walls up. If we've been hurt, especially if we haven't done the work, we might have too many walls where we don't even allow healthy people into our lives. Our client, Rachel, she learned who she was after a toxic relationship. She spent some time being single. She started dating, figured out what it is that she wanted in a partner, and actually just got married to her husband a few months ago and is now super happily married, and things are doing really great for her. And our client, John, he focused, actually it was really interesting because John, he actually came to us focusing on creating a new business. And instead he ended up, well, he worked on his new business too, but he also ended up finding the love of his life along the way. So all of this is because we are focusing on the right things. We are focusing on our goals. So what are some goals, or what are some ways to remember how to achieve goals? Well, the typical one that people like to talk about is having SMART goals. SMART goals are specific. So maybe it's dating, maybe it's, traveling, maybe it's going back to school, whatever it is. It's measurable. So when you're saying, hey, I want to date, maybe that's not specific. Maybe you have to be more specific as I'm going to, join 3 different dating apps. That's measurable because you're able to see if it is. Is it achievable to do that? Yes. Is that relevant? Yeah, dating apps are pretty much the thing. And time bound, when will you start to set up those dating apps? And when we're scared of setting those up, sometimes we put it off for a little while. So SMART goals are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. That is an easy way to remember what you need to think of when we're talking about goal setting. But when we're dealing with the emotional aftermath of toxic relationships and focusing on personal healing, sometimes those SMART goals are not enough for what we need. Maybe they're not specific enough, maybe they're too overwhelming when we're starting our healing journey. So sometimes it's better to look at more value-based goals. So instead of being specific with measurable outcomes, sometimes you can focus on aligning with your goals and core values. So maybe instead of like, hey, I'm going to go back to school, maybe part of it is still working on healing your core values. I had a client of mine that I'm thinking about. Her core value was being in a relationship where there was no adultery. They were just them together, a monogamous relationship, and they were not going to be, no one was going to go outside of the relationship. And her husband did. And she stayed. And then he cheated again and she stayed. So she was going against her core values. After we leave these relationships, we've got to realign ourselves with those core values, those things that we promised ourselves that were so important. We've got to be able to step into them and start really getting clear on what those values are. When we're looking at value-based goals, this actually encourages us to set goals that nurture ourselves and enhance our emotional healing. So that's one type of goal setting that you can go through. Another one is the PATH method. The PATH method stands for Planning Alternative Tomorrows with Hope. It's kind of an interesting way to think about it. It's a visual planning tool that starts with identifying the dream or ultimate goal and working backwards in order to establish the steps that you need. So this can really be effective about when you're visualizing your life beyond the toxic relationship so that you can start taking concrete steps towards it. So if you're thinking about a goal of, I don't know, going to live in the country or going to live in a certain place, that might be the big goal that you have. What steps do you have to take to get there? If you're still currently in that toxic relationship and your vision is to get to this beautiful house in the country, what steps do you have to take to get there? So you're able to start visualizing the end result of what you're looking for and then look backwards at what you need to do to get there. Sometimes that's what you need to focus on. In fact, even if you're not sure what that end result is, sometimes the end result is just happiness. I just want to create happiness. I want to create joy for myself. That's a good way to keep yourself reminding of how to move forward and keep yourself going. Another one is mindfulness. When you're looking at mindfulness goal setting, this actually integrates mindful practices with goal setting. So this encourages you to really be present focused, to be non-judgmental, and to have awareness of your experiences. So this is really about self-compassion and acceptance, and look at gradual progress instead of like, I need to change my life overnight. This is really helpful when it comes to dealing with emotional trauma, because you're really reminding yourself to tune into your body and see what actually your body needs and acting on that. Now, again, all of these things are much helpful to go through if you're getting the right types of support to help you through. Another one is incremental goal setting. So instead of setting that large, daunting goal, instead break it down into smaller, manageable steps. And if you've worked with me before, you know that I always talk about taking that giant elephant in the room and making it into bite-sized pieces. I always hate that example because I am a vegetarian, and I love elephants, but it gives you the visual of it, right? It's this big, giant problem is ending the relationship, creating this new life. For some people, that sounds really exciting. For other people, that sounds daunting. For me, creating this whole new life and not being in a toxic relationship anymore, that almost felt like that's not even possible for me. Like that I can't do that. But I had this little tiny vision that maybe I could be happy. And that was what I needed to focus on. So when we look at that, and when we work with people in our group program, we look at those daily wins and those weekly achievements so that we can focus on progress over time. Because that's really what's so important, is to be able to notice where we are incrementally getting better, where we might not even notice it because it seems like such a small thing, but over time it gets bigger and bigger. Each one of these is actually, for goal setting, we talk about goal setting. It's a really great way of helping you focus, and again, the SMART goals, really helpful to remember, but these other ones that we talked about will really help all the different aspects that we have when it comes to healing, when it comes to having personal experience, when it comes to reconnecting to ourselves, when it comes to being okay and open to taking small steps sometimes, where instead of stopping ourselves because we think of this big, huge thing that we have to do, we think of things in much smaller chunks so that it's easier for us to do it. It allows for a much more personalized and gentle approach, and actually helps us when we've dealt with that emotional pain and really rediscovering ourselves after toxic relationships. So find a method that resonates for you and something that's going to help you get to your destination. It's not just about getting there. It's also about enjoying the journey that gets you there, because let's face it, healing is nonlinear. I mean, no matter what your big goals are, there's going to be things that come up along the way where you feel like, hey, I thought I had that. And now something major happens, and now something has happened, and now you are, feeling like maybe I'm not as healed as I thought I was. That's part of the healing journey also. So, and again, this is why it's so great to have someone to help us stay on track, because healing is kind of one of this up and down thing. And sometimes, again, we feel like we're going backwards, but if we have that goal and we have that support to help us with a goal, it's going to ensure that you get there. Now, if you are feeling unsure, actually, was that helpful to anyone? I know that I kind of like stuttered a little bit going through that, but there's always so much information in my head when I'm trying to give all of this that I have to really think about what it is, like the next things that I'm going to share, because there really is so much. And again, like when we do this 6-week, weekly trainings, I'm giving you such a 30,000 foot view of everything. Obviously, when we work with clients directly, we're really taking things really into like the bigger picture, but smaller steps, like what we just talked about. So again, I'm trying to give you lots of information in a short period of time to really help you get focused and do what you need to do to start healing. So at this point, what I want to do, excuse me, because I'm talking, is at this point, for anyone who is unsure of where to start, this is something that I think is going to be really, really exciting for those of you who've been watching us for a while. Again, maybe this is your first time coming in, but we have created an 8-week program where we can actually give you individualized support for women who have been healing from toxic relationships. So one of the things that I come up with now, we have longer programs, we have, all these other things that are available, but the 8-week program that we've created for you is really helpful because it gives you some of that support that so many of us are looking for when we've been in this toxic relationship. We understand that when we've been in a toxic relationship, because I've been there, we really need the mental, emotional, and, physical support. And because we've lost ourselves, we have this trauma that we're trying to deal with from the toxic relationship. We feel isolated, we feel embarrassed, and we have this fear of being vulnerable. I don't know if anybody, that's watching can agree with this or empathize with this, but I was the one who took care of everybody else. So for me, admitting that I was also in an abusive relationship, I didn't want to share that because that made me too vulnerable. It made me feel like I wasn't good enough, or there was something wrong, or that, it was my fault. I was thinking about all of those things. I didn't want people to judge me. I didn't want to let anybody down, is part of what it was too. So, when we created this 8-week program, those are all things that we're thinking about when we created the program. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to do something a little different. We actually just decided to do this like an hour or two before we came on. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to bring on someone that we've been working with who can tell you a little bit about why it's important to have the community and why it's important to have this kind of support in order to heal. Because, well, I'll let her explain why. I don't want to take it away from her. But Jazz, welcome to the stage. Welcome everyone. Woohoo! Hello. I think you're muted. No, she's muted.
Yeah, a little bit. Hi, thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. This was such like literally a last minute thing. We hopped on the phone and then she was like, yeah, sure, I'll come on the live. I was like, okay, really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, I'm really excited to talk about it.
Cool. So what, I think one of the things, a lot of times people will say, why do I need a coach? Like, what is the importance of having a coach? Like, I can get a therapist, I can get, and I get it. I hear people say that all the time. And I think having coaching, as I always say, is really about helping us to move forward, as opposed to therapy that's a little bit more focused on the back end experience, like your childhood trauma and all that kind of stuff. Coaching is really focused on moving us forward. What's been your experience with coaching and why do you think it's important?
So I think for me, one of the things is vision. When you're coming out of a really toxic relationship, you've given away, at least in my experience, you've given away all these little pieces of yourself, and then you no longer have vision of what you want and what the road should look like or what your goal is. And as you're trying to make those decisions because you haven't made those decisions or even told your decisions were wrong for so long, you end up not making any decisions and kind of putting off your healing, your growth, and your recovery, right? Where having, like, to me, a coach is a guide. I don't know if that's quite how you would explain it, but to me, it's somebody who's guiding you through the process and helping you like define your vision and then take those steps and pushing you out of your comfort zone to actually make those decisions and to hold up the mirror. I think that's a big thing too, of as we're going through it, it doesn't, like you said, it's nonlinear. As we're going through it, we can't see the progress we're making. We still feel like, well, I'm not where I want to be, or I don't know yet if this is right, because there's so many levels to the recovery. So having someone who can be like, look at how far you've come and really hold up that mirror and show us the progress is just, I mean, it's completely invaluable. And I think therapy has value. It's just that it's not that forward motion that really moves us to that place where we're healed in a different way. So that's kind of a big piece of it for me. I thought the nonlinear was really nice, a really great way to say it.
Yeah, I think, it's funny because I was talking, like, in Facebook land somewhere, somebody made a comment today about, that coaches were not really that important. Like, just go to a therapist. You don't need a coach. And I think there's people that feel that way because they're not familiar with coaching. I mean, for me, it was literally what made me able to create this new life. Like, I had the therapist and they were wonderful. They helped me in the beginning, but creating those goals, and like you said, I needed someone to be accountable to. I needed someone to be like, all right, Steohanie, did you take care of yourself? Did you get your sleep? Did you do your yoga? Did you, like, I needed someone to remind me.
Water.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Always drink your water. That's
that.
Yeah, exactly.
No, accountability, but then also, I mean, so accountability, because I think, and again, I can only kind of talk from my space, but for me, there's a lack of feeling your own value and not taking care of yourself for so long, or you understand you're valuable, but you've had to put somebody else ahead of you. And so now you have to regain that. And there's this piece of you, it's usually kind of more subconscious. It doesn't seem like it's valuable to make sure I prioritize my yoga. Like, well, I don't really need to do yoga today. It's going to be fine if I skip a couple days. But it's really about resetting tone of your life and heading towards designing that life that you really want. And I like the fact that it's 8 weeks, because it's not quite so scary as some of the 12-week. Like, I know I probably need a 12-week, but the 8 weeks is something I'm like, okay, this is something I know I can do and really stick with. And then if I get to the end of it and it's like, okay, great, I'm ready for 4 more weeks. That's one thing, right? But this allows me to really kind of reset in a way that's a very clean timeline with really specific goals every week that you're hitting and checking in on.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that, because I think that's another thing too, is to be able to have, like, we actually share with you a sheet that says, did you drink your green smoothie? Did you drink your water? Did you get enough sleep? Did you do your yoga? So, because when we're so used to taking care of everybody else, we forget to take care of ourselves. So now when we're healing, all of a sudden it's like, I don't know how to do that. So, being able to have that accountability and say, oh, these are the things I need to check off every day to do for me, because my coach said I had to do it. It gives us permission to put ourselves first.
Well, you know what? At first, it almost felt like I was letting somebody else down, which is a very familiar space when you're coming out of a toxic relationship. Yes. So I don't know if that's a good explanation, but it's a really nice transition to like, okay, this person wants me to do this. I'm going to do this. And it kind of helped me reset and kind of relearn some things. Mm-hmm. And frankly, because you have that support system that you put into your program, it means I don't have to try to carry everything of my healing at the same time. There's a lot to take on. There's a lot to go through. Back to the nonlinear piece, right? There's 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, like that old Paula Abdul song, if anybody knows that. Yeah. And so you when you do the 2 steps back, you're convinced you've completely failed. And so having someone who's like, nope, you're supposed to take the 2 steps back. That was expected. We're going to move forward is invaluable.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. In fact, this is why I had you on. You're bringing up such good points. But this is it too. Like, I don't even think about it, because this is stuff that we just do naturally as coaches. Yeah. So to have someone on the other side be like, oh, this is, see, these are some things that are so helpful. But, like right now, as we're dealing with someone who is currently going through the withdrawals of a toxic relationship, her thought process is, I'm so screwed up. No one's ever been this screwed up. Yeah. I'm not fixable. that's real, like literally, even though she wanted to work with us because she's got that glimmer of hope that maybe something will happen. But for her just to hear, oh no, this is like literally what we do all the time. This is normal. In fact, we expect you to have XYZ happen. She's like, oh my gosh, really? It's just such a breath of fresh air for her to feel that she is normal, that the things that she's doing are not so far out there that she can't get any better. And I think that's also what's so great about having someone that's actually been there, because not only do we do this every day, but I've experienced it firsthand. So I really also empathize with what it feels like too, when we're looking to really heal, create something different, and really end this that we know is not good for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing too is the insight. So like for me, it's a really cloudy space to be coming out of such a tough relationship. I couldn't figure out any decisions. I had to like relearn how to eat breakfast. Like it was a whole thing of like, what do I like for breakfast? I don't even know anymore. So you're like dealing with all these different levels, right? But then so you're kind of trying to just get through your day, and you're smoothing your water, your whole thing. And then you come in. I remember the first time I reached out to you, I asked you like a quick question, like, hey, what about this? And you just spit out like all this very in-depth, insightful stuff in seconds. And it took me 3 days to go, wait, what? And like digest everything you said. So there's these elements of just really understanding where people are that I don't think you can fully express it because it's so natural to who you are, but it's truly invaluable when working with you. That's the insight that made me just go, I've literally never thought about that. Oh my God, I need a book on this now,
And I appreciate that. And I think that's really what it is that, this is so normal because this is what we do every day. And so like, it's so easy, like it's easy for us on the outside, but when you're the one on the other side, when you're still trying to figure yourself out, of course it's not easy. Of course you can't figure it out. You don't do this every day. This is not what your focus is. Your focus is on survival mode. And so if you can have like, and I always say, use my brain, because when we're in it, we're so foggy. I always have this visual of like, everything is gray. And then as you start healing, these new glasses come in and you're like, whoa, the colors, the brightness, the clarity, like everything starts to change. And so I have that clarity from being over here, but I also remember what it was like when I didn't have the clarity.
It's very much a fog, right? That's exactly how I would describe it, where I can almost see decisions, like I have memories of those decisions, but I can't quite get there. You got to kind of work through it. Yeah. So to me, the accountability, the support, the kind of taking off the decision-making as far as like the small things, so then I can start actually focusing on that next level, digesting and learning that's just a huge piece. Holding up the mirror of progress. And then I think pushing out of the comfort zone, because we're not doing that on our own is rough. That's really rough. So having someone who's like, no, I promise you, this bridge like that looks like it's going into the fog really has something on the other side, and I'm going to help you to the other side, is just so wonderful.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's so true, is to be able to remind you that all of this hard work is for something.
Right.
There's something better over there.
Because it's hard to know, and you kind of give up on it a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was that I want to say. And then I just wanted to say that there's this idea when you first start with you, that you take everything in and you can feel like it's a jumble, and you say it right back in this very simple, very like, okay, it's just these things. And it just brings all this stress down and clarity. So I just think it's a really great system.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing all that with everybody. I don't know if anybody has any questions or anything for Jazz, but I really, really, really appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge with us. Always great to talk to you and hang out with you. I don't see any questions, but feel free, if this is after anybody has any questions, feel free to ask and I will have Jazz answer them for you.
Yeah, so I'm in a group.
Yes, in a group. Yeah, you can also tag her too. Yeah. All right, Jazz, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Bye. All right. So awesome. I love having Jazz on. She's such a great person, such a good-hearted person. And, I think it's just a reminder, any one of us could literally be in a toxic relationship. And of course, having that support really is so important. So, realistically, like we really talked about everything in there, but, having that support is so important. Having the community of support, having peer support, so that you're also with people that are also looking to heal. And that's something that we didn't really talk about, is being with other people that are also looking is amazing, because they're not there to commiserate about how angry they are about their ex. They're not there to commiserate about how bad things were. They're literally there to, hey, I've been there, I've done that, and now I want to create something different. So you have community of people that are also looking to do that. And then, of course, having expert support of David and I with our coaching, with our support, so that we can help you through with unlimited coaching as much as you need as things come up in real time to be able to help you through. Some of the other things that we want to make sure we get to you in that 8-week program is to also give you educational content. So we do give resources, we give weekly life coaching. We cover topics like self-love, boundary setting, and resilience building, all things that are related to healing and really, again, creating that bigger picture for yourself. We give practical tools in order for you to start healing. And of course, if you have a session with David, with Psych K, that's the high-speed mindset, which helps your subconscious actually change from the negative place to the positive. So another way of saying that is if your core belief is that you are not good enough, you're going to keep attracting people that are not your equal, people that are not going to be a good fit for you. But if you change that core feeling of, I am worthy, just as an example, with Psych K, you're suddenly going to start to notice that you're attracting healthier people and you're having better people in your life. So that's one of the tools that we use that's really helpful in helping people heal. And you heard me talk about before, we come from a really holistic perspective. So we want to make sure that you're getting enough sleep, you're drinking enough water, you're having your green smoothies. These are all things that we help you focus on, and you have the accountability to actually follow through with it. And then I'm trying to think what else. Obviously, too, you're going to be, connecting with other people in the group, so you can have accountability buddies and other people that are in there. Really, really important to have other people that understand what you're going through, because you might not want to share what's happening with your friends or family back home. What else? Again, we're holistic, mindfulness. Oh, we really love when people do meditation. So we actually have some meditations that are available to you to help you focus on going within and to be able to help you to heal. And, just really want to start nurturing that self-love. We want to emphasize the importance of self-compassion, self-care practices, self-esteem, emotional well-being, all of those things that are so important to really forgive yourself in whatever you've experienced and decide that you can create something different for yourself. So, those are all the great things. And like we talked about it with Jazz, all the great things that are there for you. What I would ask you to do, for those of you who really want to embrace renewal and join the supportive community of empowered women on their journey to healing and transformation, go ahead and click beinglovedshouldn'thurt.com/links. Again, you can go to beinglovedshouldn'thurt.com/links. If David is watching, he can put that in the comments, and you can go ahead and set up an appointment to chat with me. We can actually come up with a specific plan for you to help you heal, because it's very specific to you. Or just send me a private message. If you have a question, shoot me over a question, whatever question it is. Don't feel bad about asking me a question, but it's really important for you to get that support. And, if it's not me, you're not feeling me, that's fine. But make sure that you are reaching out and getting help from someone, because I saw someone comment a little bit earlier, it's like having a sponsor. And I'll say that kind of in a way, yes, it is, except because we're there, we're available, we're ready to answer any questions and be supportive and help you through whatever it is. But we're not just sponsors. We also have the education. And literally, this is what we do for a living. This is what we do all day long. Most sponsors are the average person who goes to work and does their own thing, which is great. That's a beautiful thing. But what if you had someone who all day long was working with people to heal from toxic relationships and create their best lives? It is a very different place when you have someone who has written books on it and, does this every day, that can really see the areas that you might be missing out on in order for you to actually heal. So on that note, is anyone going to, or actually has anyone reached out yet? I haven't seen any messages come in, but if you have not done so yet, make sure you get on my calendar, beinglovedshouldn'thurt.com/links, and go ahead and make an appointment to chat with me or with David. It'll be one of us or somebody on our team, so that we can talk about the right steps that you need. If you have not watched the other 5 steps, make sure you go back and watch those. I think those are going to be really important and helpful for you. Again, that's the 30,000 foot view. Make sure you get your copy of Reinvent Yourself After Divorce. That is our free gift to you. That is also at beingloveshouldn't-hurt.com/links. And if you're interested in working with us further, you can also set up an appointment to chat with me directly, beingloveshouldn't-hurt.com/links, or send me a private message. So thank you everybody for tuning in. I see a few people saying they're going to reach out to me. I look forward to answering any questions that you have. So on that note, have a wonderful Thursday, and we'll see you next time. Never forget, you are way stronger than you realize. Bye, everybody.